Hello everyone, welcome to the Star Psych, and today I want to talk about the INTJ and the ESFP personality types, and the archetypes that they encompass, and the similarities and differences between those archetypes. A few weeks ago I talked about the NFJ and the STP personality types, and the similarities that their archetypes had, and the differences as well. And today I want to go over the INTJ and the ESFP in particular. Now, some of this could apply to the ENTJ and the ISFP as well, but as an INTJ myself, this specific relationship between these two archetypes is something that I feel like have spent more time thinking about. So I want to talk about this relationship in particular. Let's get into it. So the INTJ and the ESFP, they share all the same cognitive functions, they're just completely backwards. So a lot of people would assume that these types are actually quite different. But at their very core, I find that INTJs and ESFPs often want the same thing, or at least they come to the same end goal, just by two very different means of getting there. So I like to call the INTJ the forward scout, and I like to call the ESFP the explorer. And I'll explain how I came to these conclusions, or at least why I think that these titles represent these personality types. So what are the INTJ and the ESFP good at? Well, the INTJ and the ESFP tend to be the types that are most likely to stumble onto or go searching for things that haven't quite yet been discovered yet, or they're going to be trying to find out or discover the, secrets of the universe type thing. Now, this is going to be different from, say, the INFJ, who might be interested in discovering and learning about the deep secrets of the universe and trying to fully understand and write them down, or you might find this with INTPs as well. With the INTJ, it's often more so about the exploration aspect, which is what is shared in common with the ESFP. And this is actually due to the fact that they have both NI and TE in their function stack. When an INTJ is searching for or trying to find something that is new, they often want to get to it and then kind of utilize it or engage with it in some way that isn't going to be too bogged down by the heavy analytical details, like again you might find with an INTP or an INFJ. So why do I call INTJs in particular the forward scout? Well, I think that their unique gift tends to be that they tend to be at the very front line of discovery when it comes to learning about and uncovering new sciences, information, ways of thinking, these sorts of things. The difference is that the INTJ, because they're more interested in the finding or uncovering aspect of this information, these ways of thinking, they're not going to spend nearly as much time really refining this information in the analytical way that you might find with the INTP. So how does this work, say, for example, in the sciences? Well, the INTJs tend to be the ones who are going to be the first to attempt a lot of new types of scientific ideas. They're going to be the kind of forerunner when it comes to experimenting with something that may not be thought of quite yet. And then what happens after that is the INTJ stumbles onto something that they found doing their experiments, their research, these sorts of things, and they'll go, great, this was awesome, look at this thing that I've kind of found, but I don't want to spend my entire life studying this one thing and trying to make it some complete, masterful, fully understood analytical thing. So a lot of times they'll hand it over to the types who have higher TI in their function stack, and then they'll go, great, now you turn this into something that can help the entire human race. I'm going to go look for the next thing. And that is really what I find that the INTJ does differently compared to a lot of the other personality types who are interested in the sciences, is that the INTJ usually is going to kind of spend a lot of time searching for one specific thing, find it, and then immediately start searching for another thing. Because NI is like digging through the depths of some void of unknown information, but as soon as they hit that thing that they're looking for, they want to use that information. It has to be TE applied in some sense. They don't want to keep digging. That's one of the reasons I actually call the ISTP and the INFJ the double depth types, those two types in particular, is because they have both NI and TI in their valued functions, and because they're introverted dominant types, they're actually going to kind of double value these types. So an INFJ is going to dig down for some secret of the universe, and then when they hit it, they're just going to keep going with TI. They never come up for air, they never want to breathe, they're just going to try and keep fully understanding the thing that they're interacting with. Whereas with the INTJ, you find that they dig a little bit, they hit whatever it is that they're looking for, and then they try to apply it immediately, and then they move on to the next thing to kind of try to interpret or understand. Remember, NI in and of itself isn't always going to be about the actual understanding aspect, because NI isn't active, it's a perception. You receive insights about certain things. So the INTJ is going to be looking for ways to try and receive these insights, and once they get the insight that they're looking for, they're going to be looking for a different insight to achieve. I have a story about how I came to the conclusion of the Forward Scout, and it actually involves my good friend Madshot. You might remember the ENTJ I did coaching with back a few months ago on Twitch. Back early in this year, a video game called Valheim came out, and this was an exploration-based Viking game. And we played this game for like 200 hours together, and it was a lot of fun. But there was a very different way in that which me and him interacted with the game and exploration, even between just an INTJ and an ENTJ. For me as an INTJ, my largest priority when I was playing this world that I was just thrown into that I knew nothing about was to kind of like start looking for the next steps to kind of improve and get better. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time refining the step that I was already on. So think of it in terms of like, oh, I was in the Bronze Age, now I want to get to the Iron Age as quickly as possible. And I don't want to master the Bronze Age. I want to get to the Iron Age, and I want to get to the next age, and I kind of want to just keep developing these tools, only getting the bare minimum needed to get to the next tier. Where I found that when playing with Madshot, a lot of the times he would want to really like stop and like TE mastercraft everything that we interacted with. Like he would want to refine it to a point where it was as functionally useful as possible. That game involved a lot of exploration, so a lot of the times I would just hop on a boat, sail out to a different island, and start searching for some sort of new mineral or thing to interact with. And I would build up just a little forward scout camp base. It would just be like this little thing there, and it was like, oh, it's just enough for me to hide from the weather and make sure that I'm not going to die while I'm on this island. And as soon as I found out what was on that island, I was like, all right, now I'm going to go to another island and do the same thing. Him being 1 or 2 steps behind, because his TE wanted to refine everything, would show up on that island by the time I'm already at the next island, and then he would spend a ton of time refining this tiny little base I made into something functional. And I would ask him, well, why are you spending all this time on this little base? That was just like a throwaway base. It wasn't actually something that I really wanted to build up into something important. It was just there so I could use it as a stepping stone to get to the next area. And for him, even just as a TE down with secondary NI, he was like, no, my TE is like, I need to make this functional and useful. We've started it, so now we need to finish it. And to me, that was a big difference, and something that I noticed between even just the INTJ and the ENTJ, is that for me, it was all about getting just what I needed to get to the next stage of development so I could keep searching for the next new thing to interact with and the next secret to uncover. So I've talked a lot about the INTJ now, so how does all of this relate to the ESFP? Well, the INTJ is the forward scout and the ESFP is the explorer, and these are very similar archetypes in that they're both searching for something new, but the main difference is that the INTJ has a much more coordinated assault type of approach to this compared to the ESFP. When it comes to things like exploration and searching for answers, you often find that the INTJ is the one who's going to like pick a direction and strongly move in that direction until they find something. And then when they find something, they might pick a new direction and go from there. But there's always going to be a reason as to why they've picked the direction in which they are moving in. Whereas with the ESFP, you often find that for them, it's just about the kind of like raw experience of exploration in and of itself. They could literally maybe just pick a random direction and go and have a good time. They're not exactly searching for something, but they will end up stumbling upon something that they can then interact with, explore. This is really seen again with the archetype of the hero as well, because the hero and the explorer kind of go hand in hand, and that they're both just kind of journeying out into the world and interacting with it, and when they stumble across something that needs to be interacted with, that's when they will act upon it. So the INTJ and the ESFP tend to be the two types who are going to be stumbling upon things that haven't yet been interacted with, or haven't been interacted with in a long time, and they're going to then, find joy and excitement and meaning from interacting with these things. For the INTJ, the meaning comes from the searching and the finding of something that has not yet been uncovered or something that is going to provide new insights to them. Whereas for the ESFP, it's just about the exploration in and of itself. For them, it's about that raw experience of just going out into the world and interacting with things in general that have not really been structured so much, something that they can just go out and kind of interact with freely. And that's why they stumble across things that haven't been found before, because they're interacting with things in a almost like an experimental type of way. Like that's how you see ENTPs. ENTPs are going to be the ones who are going to be the most experimental when it comes to sciences and, these sorts of things. They're going to be the ones who are literally creating experiments to stumble across new ways of thinking or developing new ways of thinking and then experimenting off of those new ways of thinking. Whereas with the ESFP, it's more so this raw, literal, like they're experimenting with the world itself. And that's what allows them to stumble across things that have not yet been thought of. And I really think that that relates to the INTJ. It's just that the INTJ picks a direction before they start searching, whereas the ESFP usually is just going to be, what is the general interest that I have and how can I kind of go about exploring this general interest in a very free and open way. There's a trope in TV and fiction that I think really exemplifies what you might find is interesting to someone like an INTJ or an ESFP. And this is the TV trope of the Precursor race. And you see this a lot in video games, film, and TV. And what it essentially is that sometime, a long time in history or the past, there was a super highly advanced race with like really advanced technology. And then for some reason, they were wiped out and forgotten, and all their technology was buried and forgotten to the world. And this is something that I think is really interesting to the INTJ and the ESFP, because when you play games like that have these in them, or you watch movies that have these kinds of themes, it's all about uncovering the secret of something that hasn't been found yet or has been lost to time even, which is kind of the same thing. One of my favorite examples of this would be the Assassin's Creed video game series. And if anyone here knows me, they know I'm a big fan of that video game series. And that's because that series is all about a precursor race. It's all about the impact that they had on the civilization that is present in the game now. Even if you've played games like The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, they have the Dwemer, the dwarves that were a precursor forgotten race. And in those games, stumbling onto their ruins and ancient technology was always the most exciting thing for me, because it's like I'm uncovering a secret that hasn't been found yet within the context of this world. And that's just something I really enjoy. And for me, it's not even about understanding the secret. It's more so about finding it. It's about uncovering what was hidden. And then what can I do with that information? How can I use this in my life? Or what does this mean or imply for the world to uncover this secret? Or again, you look at the INFJ, the ISTP, or even the INTP, and for them, it's really about coming to a final conclusion or really core understanding of the secret that they're searching to find. They're going to be the ones who really take the time to stop and analyze that information. For the INTJ and the ESFP, it's more so like they're delving into these ruins. They're trying to uncover these secrets just because it's interesting to them. It's really just fun even to just look for secrets that have not been found yet. So to kind of summarize, the INTJ is the forward scout and the ESFP is the adventurer. Now remember that these are just very loose archetypes. Not every INTJ is going to fit into this archetype. And if you don't have the same interests as me that I explained in this video, that's perfectly normal. I'm talking about the kind of general broad patterns that I tend to see with INTJs, that I tend to see with ESFPs. The main difference between these two types and their archetypes is that both of them are going to be really interested in exploring and finding things that haven't quite been interacted with yet, but the INTJ has a much more coordinated assault type of method, while the ESFP is kind of just going to pick a direction and go, and they might even find themselves stumbling onto something on accident, and that's going to be something interesting for them. When they stumble across these opportunities, they tend to take them, while the INTJ is going to specifically go looking for one type of opportunity. They're going to be searching for some sort of answer, trying to come to some sort of conclusion, but different from the TI types, the INTJ is not going to want to take the time to study it too intensely, to analyze it from too deep a level. They want to apply it or see how it applies to the world in some sense. I hope you enjoyed this discussion on the INTJ and the ESFP. Let me know down in the comment section below, what did you think about this video? Do you relate to these archetypes in any way? Are you an INTJ, an ESFP? If you're another type, what archetype do you think that your type and its shadow represent? This has been Asura from Asura Psych. I would like to remind everybody before I go that I do have personality typing sessions available, as well as coaching at my website, asurapsych.com, if you're interested in working with me to find out what your personality type is and what that means for you. Now, it's been Asura from Asura Psych. Have a good one.